Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari alongside Asukwo James, my colleague here.
Good morning, Yori. Good morning, Nigerians.
Indeed. It depends on who you ask. How was your weekend? Some will say, oh, thank God, it was great.
Yeah, it was splendid.
And then some you will ask, how was your weekend?
Yeah, well, if
you were to ask Mr. Magu, how was your weekend?
Well, he will say fine.
He will say, I got you.
Yes.
He will say fine.
Yes.
Everything is cool.
Yes.
And talking about Mr. Magu, acting chair, now suspended acting chair. He isn't the acting chair. No, I don't know how to
He's now suspended.
Correct.
He's officially been suspended by the presidency.
Is he therefore acting chair or not? He still has to be described as the suspended acting chair.
Yes.
And he's been replaced by someone in there.
Yeah, director of operations.
Director of operations. Now, the director of operations is not necessarily the next most senior person, but he's not an operative, I think, is why the thing has now gone to...
I think generally when the EFCC, what they usually do is to bring somebody who is always in the operations unit
okay.
to run the place.
Okay, so we have that situation, but talking about Mr. Magu, and really it's not so much Mr. Magu as the EFCC. He just personifies the EFCC. It's really about the EFCC and what all of this, his travels, if that is the word to use, what he's doing to the concept or the perception of this administration's war against corruption. The hunter himself has been hunted, and now successfully he's in the net. But one needs to put that in context. I suppose people are innocent until proven guilty, right? So we'll go with that particular concept. So I don't think, maybe the way to look at it is that the man is innocent until proven otherwise. And we have no less than Justice Ayo Salami at the head of a panel to determine that particular situation. Okay. There have been so many stories, and this is because the presidency has declined to speak on the matter for too long. Okay, you're going to say to me, Mr. Garba Shehu did indeed speak. When and what did he say?
Well, he said what we all wanted to hear, which is that nobody is above the law, and that Magu was going to have the investigative panel was going to be as transparent as ever. And that is why, definitely, if you are holding, they also said something about if you are holding any government institution,
yeah,
you must always, come for scrutiny, one way or the other.
You come under scrutiny.
Yes, under one way or the other. So there's nothing big about it. That is what the presidency said. And that is why they are saying that, Mr. Magu, you stand suspended for now so that we can carry out this investigation concerning these allegations that we are, leveled against you.
Well, I like the way you put it. He said what we expected to hear, in the sense that...
No, the problem is that they left that loophole, that lawn for a very long time.
Why?
Why? Maybe for them to study, or for them to study, or I don't know the reason.
While they were trying to make up their minds whether he was arrested or not arrested. Because Mr. Magu was apprehended. All the agencies...
He was invited.
There you go. He was invited or he was arrested, depending on how you look at it. That was confusion
like
enough.
Some people say
nobody wanted
arrest.
No invitational arrest. Nobody wanted to take responsibility for having invitationally arrested the man. And we have the situation where he was on the way somewhere else, force headquarters, if I'm correct. That was where he was on the way to. Intercepted. He was intercepted, so they say, and then rerouted, as it were, to State House, where a panel was sitting ready, waiting to ask him questions. Now, if that part of it is true, lawyers have spoken up. Anybody would reasonably wonder, oh, you mean a panel was set up? The arrangements that are necessary to get people together to sit down in a panel, they were there. Mr. Magu, Ibrahim Magu, didn't know anything about this, so much so that he was on the way somewhere else when the panel was ready for him. And so operatives of state step in to sort of ease matters, a bit and redirect Mr. Magu to where he needs to be. People are still, wondering about that, but That's what it is. Now, Mr. Garba has finally spoken. You know, we were calling Mr. Garba Shehu and Mr. Femi Adesina's name here, that these are our go-to guys when we have a thing like this. What exactly is happening? Whim was the word. Not a word out of those guys. They must have been studying the situation, as you said, and now they've come out. I don't know that we're helped very much. Because everything they said, we knew about the President Buhari administration before. There's a zero tolerance for corruption. Nobody is above the law. This is not strange. Anybody in government can expect to be... Okay, anyhow, keep that to one side. Also, all sorts of names are being tossed into the hat in this kind of, in this scenario that we find ourselves in. And one might say a bit recklessly. Over the weekend, we heard the name, even before that, we heard the name of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, being mentioned, something about some very unpalatable story about 4 billion naira kind of a thing. The Vice President he's not unaware of apparently the source of that particular rumor. Indeed, has been doing it for some time. He's complained to the Inspector General of Police, and I think he's ready to take very, very serious action. And in any case, Laulu Akonde has spoken and said, total arrant rubbish. Now, okay, we've just let go of that. Then the Vice President's daughter, the premises within which she has her business, somebody came out and said that it belongs to her. Oh dear. Even Mr. Magu himself has not escaped all of this. His son wedded in Kano over the weekend.
No, Malami. That was
I beg your pardon. Who did I say?
Magu.
No, not Magu. Mr. Malamu, the Attorney General, who started all of this. His son was marrying in Kano, and then the news went out there that
he bought a house. Allegedly that he
bought a house for him. Two, chartered an airplane. Mr. Malami has debunked all of this. He said his son doesn't have any intention to live in Abuja in any case. And in any case, I don't have parents anywhere in Nigeria. So who was I ferrying with that? So all sorts of stories are out there. Now, one man who probably has been looking at all of this with maybe mild, if not distaste, mild interest, if not distaste, must be, I'm guessing, Mr. Dakwa Akinyoshun. Mr. Akinyoshun is the lead counsel at Simmons Cooper Partners. Now, for those who don't know, Simmons Cooper Partners is the vice president's legal firm, but when he became vice president, you know, he had to turn the reins over to someone. So Mr. Dakwa Akinyoshun is the lead counsel. Simon Cooper and Partners. Good morning, Mr. Akinyoshun.
Good morning, Mr. Folari.
Yori will do, please. Thank you very much for joining us. I know you are not a disinterested party to the extent that reputations are involved here. And first of all, what do you make of how these stories were coming out? They hit the vice president, as it were, with one that is being sorted out by the man himself and even perhaps the process. And then suddenly we heard about his daughter as well, which the young lady herself has categorically denied. And this has been followed up by the owner of the building saying, it's my building, it's my crib.
Correct.
Mr. Akinyoshun, did you hear me?
I missed the last bit. I heard the last up to where the landlord has also followed up with.
Yes, by saying that that's total nonsense. It's my premises and all of that, and I haven't sold it to anybody. So, one, are you surprised that these stories are coming up? And I hasten to add that one is not necessarily saying that it's coming from within the inquiry, because one of the lawyers, you know, for Mr. Ibrahim Magu, in the name of Barrister Shitu, Wahab Shitu, has said that, you know, the man needs bail so that he can sort out all of these things going on and all of these statements being made. So there are those who might be tempted to say it's looking pretty messy right now.
Well, you know that we have not heard from the man himself. So everything people are saying are just conjectures that he said. And until he comes out to say what he said, it will just be hearsay. And as a lawyer, you would know that hearsay evidence is not admissible in any law court. So it doesn't stand for anything. But on the contrary, the allegations coming from the same person is the one who spoke about the 4 billion, who also spoke about the property belonging to the VP's daughter. As you can see, even from the responses from the owner of the property, you'll find that the person is just a rabble-rouser, a person looking for a way to get attention, has no facts, no information, and just goes on here and just says anything because he is able to hide under what they call freedom of speech. But freedom of speech doesn't give you the liberty to tell lies or to slander people. And that is what I think the action being taken by the VP is making clear, that you have your freedom of speech, but you cannot use it irresponsibly. And you'd expect that an adult of his age making allegations would at least cross-check certain facts before he starts saying them. But to just go out and say Magu said, when Magu has never even said anything like that, has categorically denied it. He said the property belongs to somebody. The owner of the property has come out and said, no, I've never sold that property, has never been on the market for sale. So you begin to wonder what kind of person this is. So rather than being interested, they're just offended by the kind of liberties people take.
Do you think that the way this whole story is being handled from the presidency might inadvertently have contributed to some of the damage that is being done? Because for so long, there wasn't any word. And meanwhile, people were going crazy in society with stories. First of all, like a 007 operation, he was intercepted allegedly, then suddenly taken over to, and all of that taken over to the panel of inquiry. He's been there for the past 4 or 5 days. I don't know if they've let go yet. He's been applying for bail. And there wasn't anything from the presidency for quite a while. Do you think that might have contributed to the general sort of carelessness and people wanting to say something, even if they didn't have any stuff with which to say it?
Well, generally, I find that we as a people sometimes are always looking for information that is not necessary yet. Whatever is happening, we will get to know. I sometimes, and I quite often wonder why people are in such a rush to be the first to hear this news or
to report it. Everybody wants to be a breaking news specialist.
Yes, and when the time is right, everything that is being said is secret to be told publicly. So why are you in a rush? If a presidency is carrying out its own internal issues, investigations, if it be, when they are done, we will all hear the results. What is the rush into listening to? And you see, we also encourage the rumor mill because they know you want to hear something, and then they tell you what is not right, and people just start carrying it over. And I tell people, particularly on WhatsApp groups that are with me, that before you forward anything to me, have you verified the source? Have you checked yourself? Because many of these things you can check. Someone sends something to you, you don't check it. I call people who send me things that are coming. I say, do you know where this came from? How do you know? And if a lot of us will just take a little more time to double check information that is sent to us before we forward, you will find that there's nonsense behind it. But we are too eager to forward bad news. And because bad news always sells, we are always part of bad news. We want to sell bad news, we want to carry bad news. But if we're just a bit patient, the truth will come out.
So 1 second, because George in Ikeja, Mr. George has called in. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in. Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I'll be grateful if you can give me about 90 seconds to air my views on this subject.
Okay, go right ahead.
Uncle Yori, I'm personally baffled at the kind of decisions that have been coming from the president of recent. At first, it was the party governance. A few governors came and had their way to upturn the orderliness of a party, you allowed it. Now, the anti-corruption element in the president's agenda, Magu is the one driving it. As I've said on your program severally before, there is no minister, there is no other appointee of government apart from the vice president that is helping the president to champion this issue of anti-corruption. A cabal has come up and they have trumped up all sorts of allegations against the person that you are using to fight this war. and you allowed them. I may be wrong, but that is what I'm saying from where I sit. These allegations that they trumped up have not just come. They have come before. That was the reason why this man was not confirmed. And in order to fulfill, I don't know whether it is to fulfill all righteousness, the president is allowing it.
Although when you say trumped up, Mr. George, it
Yes.
does imply that there is absolutely no basis to them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what the
that is what the in the past.
That is what the panel is supposed to determine.
After the investigation, Koyori,
yeah,
that the president discarded it during that confirmation drama at the Senate.
Okay.
Now the confirmation was not done, and instead of the confirmation to be done now, they have come up to repeat the same set of allegations, and you say, okay, look at the way he was arrested. Somebody was, you set up a panel, and the panel has not heard from the person that has been accused. One would have expected that if you set up a panel, you will first of all give a query to the accused and allow him to reply in writing before inviting him to come and confirm what he said in the writing.
Okay.
This man was going somewhere for an official function. You arrested him on the way, and you say he's not arrested.
Okay.
If you are investigating, why did you have to detain the person?
I want to thank you, Mr. George. I've got to interrupt you now. I beg your pardon for doing so. Thank you very much, Mr. George. And indeed, you know, I got the whole gist of where you were, what you wanted to say, as indeed I imagine our viewers did. Now, Mr. Akioshin, let me ask you something. As a lawyer yourself, what do you think of the complaint from the public that why is this investigation going on behind closed doors? Somebody has said, I don't remember where, that I think it was Festus Kiyamo, that it's in the open that you investigate corruption. Not in the darkness. I think he was saying that in relation to, we're going to have a closed session. So no. Let's have it here. But, you know, just paraphrasing or moderating that idea a bit, what do you personally think, Mr. Dapo Adeosun, about this whole matter about the press not being allowed in on the matter, yet it is corruption that we are fighting?
Well, as you know, what we have presently is an internal investigation in which they invited him to come and answer questions that have been raised against his person or his office. And until that is clearly sorted out, before it becomes a thing for public trial, as you know, he's the head of the anti-graft agency, and it's very important that those facts are first sorted out. As you have said before, those allegations have been raised before, and the presidency put them aside. So if they want to consider it now, it is important that they listen to it internally first. And if there's any reason to then make it public, I'm sure when it gets to that stage, it will be done. But on the other hand, it may be found that those allegations are spurious and without any basis. And I think having a man with Justice Salami's caliber on that panel gives a little assurance that justice will be done in that place. The real facts will be investigated. And so when that is done, we can then say, well, should it be publicly heard if there's going to be a trial or not? But at this stage, it is premature to say it should be a public hearing.
Okay, I'll take all of that to my interpretation is that you are saying that there is nothing amiss at this stage about, as it were, the total absence or lack of information because of how you explained it, that it's a sort of a preliminary finding. Mr. Femi, it's Surulere. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your colleague there.
Asukwa.
Good morning.
Asukwa. My contribution is that the way the federal government is going about this thing is wrong. When you are head of an organization and you are being accused of certain things, you now just pick this man right on the street and take him and keep him incommunicado. How is he going to defend himself? I think this thing should have been given to him. You are accused of this, you are accused of this. He doesn't have all those things in his brain. He has to look for files in the office.
Okay.
To clear himself.
Okay.
So instead of just keeping him in control, it's not fair to him. It's not a fair investigation. That's the way I see it. And then it should be made public.
All right. I hear you.
Okay, so Mr. Akioshin, you can see how Nigerians are reacting to this. I'm looking at the process in which he was either invited or arrested in whatever way, particularly someone that heads an agency as important as the EFCC. What do you say about that? Legally, is that right? Is it correct for the way he was, either invited or arrested, and then the process in which, he is being taken?
See, again, those are some of the facts that are rumors that I don't have correct information about. And until we are sure of those facts, it will be presumptuous to start making decisions or making assertions based on that. We are told he was arrested or waylaid on the street. I've heard those things by way of rumor, but I don't know anybody that said, I saw it happen. I mean, it would be good to see an eyewitness. Most people are relying on what somebody said, they said. But I do agree that if he's appearing before any panel, most of the information will be in his office, will be in his files. And those are things, many of the things are not even generated by him. He works with a team of people. He doesn't work alone. So he may need to consult them to ask for these facts, ask for this file, ask for these figures, because those things were definitely generated by people for him, which he announced. And so when they say that, from what we hear, there are errors in calculation or computation of exchange rates, he's a police officer. He's not an accountant. He's not an economist. He must have relied on some people to do those exchange rates for him and things like that, and conversion of monies.
Okay, one moment, please. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Akinyosho. Timothy, Mr. Timothy in Kaduna has called in. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
How is everything? I want to talk about this corruption of the thing. Putting in place structures that will fight the corruption very well has become difficult for Nigerian government. And that being said,
we can hear you.
I know.
Okay, you dropped
out. After graduation, for some time, he never had any job. This guy happened to get a job with EFCC, and within a short period of 8 months, he was able to gather money with an exotic car while working with EFCC within 8 months. Where did he get the money? So if someone of that class could get that kind of money within a short period, how much more those are the top? So that is Nigeria. But then I wish Nigeria.
Well, the logic of that is one kind, but I think I understand. With due respect, I'm so sorry, but that logic, get as it be, so as our people would say. But I take what you were saying. Well, Mr.
Yes, because sure. I understand what he's trying to say. The thing is,
even
in the EFCC,
yes,
there are no angels.
Well,
that is
essentially perhaps, and that, for instance, they always said that of the customs, for whatever it is
of
worth.
Course.
That someone who was a young man achieved that, therefore, how much more the big men there. That was where the logic falls down.
And it doesn't work that way.
He can't. So, Mr. Lainka in Jos has also called in. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir. Good morning.
You know what is confusing me about this arrest of Magu?
What?
Is that out of the 3 agenda of APC, the economy, job creation, and nothing, it's only this anti-corruption that is working fine. And this is the only one they want to destroy with their own eye.
Well, sir, I'm sorry, sir. Could you let me say something? When you say they want to destroy,
yes,
you see, you have to put that in context, because they are saying that Mr. Garba Shehu said, for example, that it says something about this administration, if it is ready to take that, if you want to call it so, a jewel, and subject it to scrutiny because there is probable cause. Are you there, sir?
Hello, Uncle Yori.
Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. But what I'm saying, nobody is against that anybody who gets anyone can get arrested, but they should have done the proper thing.
Okay.
The way they go about Magu issue, there's a more questions to the federal government to answer more questions about the Magu issue.
It leaves more questions than answers. Thank you very much for calling in. Well, Mr. Akioshun, that this leaves more questions than answers. It reminds me of an old reggae song. I think it was Johnny Nash. There are more questions than answers. First of all, is that also your considered opinion that? And I do know I'm putting you on the spot a bit because of your office and that kind of a thing. But as that viewer said, this whole affair leaves more questions than answers. How would you comment on that assertion?
Well, as you know, each time somebody heads the anti-corruption agency in Nigeria, there's that saying that corruption always fights back. People that are being investigated are unhappy with him, and a lot of the time, whether true or not, they will throw allegations against the person just to smear him and create a problem. But on the other hand, the government has to do a balancing act sometimes. But if these allegations are coming, should we listen to them or should we ignore them? And when the noise gets louder, there's a tendency or the temptation to listen to it. And as you know, in the history of EFCC, there's been hardly any chief executive that has left there without being harassed or being finger pointed for something or the other. And you cannot hold that kind of office and not expect people to raise a fight against you. So in this context, what I see for now is just a fight by people or persons who have already been harassed, who have felt intimidated, who have had cases to answer before EFCC, who are now trying to find their own way back. And some of the allegations, if it is true, we will know. If it is not true, would also be seen. But like I said, these are things that are not unexpected in Nigeria. It is sad that it usually goes this way, but that's the nature of the beast. And when you're taking that kind of office, you know the kind of things you are getting into. It's always a difficult thing.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Adakwioshu, for taking time. In fact, if it's okay with you, could you please stay on? We need to go on a break, and then when we come back, so we'll still have you on when we come back. Mr. Dapo Akinoshun is lead counsel, Simon Cooper Partners. Well, it's not the old, I was going to say it's the old firm of the vice president. It still is the firm, but Mr. Akinoshun is the lead counsel now. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And our guest is Dapo Akinoshun, lead counsel, Simon Cooper Partners. Mr. Akinoshun, something to clear up. I have been, billing this as speaking with you, lead counsel Simon Cooper, and I've been adding that it was the vice president's former firm. Apparently, there's some clearing up, some clarification that needs to be made about that particular session. Could you go ahead, please?
Yes, I said he has resigned his position in the firm since he became the vice president.
Oh, I see.
He no longer has any interest in the firm.
Okay. He no longer has interest in the firm the way you lawyers use the word interest. Not that he doesn't care about the firm at all.
Correct.
Okay.
That was where he became
vice president.
That was where he was, engaged, employed before he became vice president. And on becoming vice president, he resigned it. So he has no connection, and as you put it, or interest in the firm. However, it's not as if you, Mr. Dapo Akinoshun, the law is still there. The law is still in your head, and so we can reach you when it comes to matters of the law and comments like this. So I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you very much for helping us out and also giving us your opinion on certain issues and questions and the procedures of all of this, but also to take due note of what you said, that Mr. Vice President has resigned entirely from Simon Cooper Partners, and one cannot refer to it as his, well, one can still refer to it as his former firm, but it's not as if he's coming back or anything. Or if he's going to come back, he has to apply, and then the new management will consider his application.
Exactly.
Right? So thank you very much, Thank you very much for coming on. Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay. So there you go. we need to look at other things as well. Although if the calls are coming in, you know, what the calls are doing is that they're giving us perspectives from people's point of view. A lot of people are saying that, look, they don't see, you know, how this is the way it is. They think of it as unfair. One gentleman used the word trumped up, and that was in frustration. And you usually talk about manufacturing charges, that is creating them out of nowhere. Now, I want us to be very, very careful here, because there are those who will say that without prejudice to the facts of the case, there can't be nothing, and then you summon a man like this. Maybe the method, maybe the whole procedure leaves a lot to be desired, but certainly there wouldn't have been nothing, and then we'd go to this extent where if they did mistakes, these kind of mistakes have been made. Mr. Emmanuel in Benue State, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chief Yuri.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to James Asuko there.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
It's the other way around, but he will take anyone you give him.
Yes, it's the other way around.
It's Asuko James.
I am a bona fide Nigerian.
There you go.
And I'm proud of my country. I'm proud of my country.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it.
Go on.
Okay. Certain things are wrong with this country. Having read the book that Chinua Achebe wrote before he died, there was a country. I decided to do a postmortem about Nigeria. And this is what I've come up with. And it is in line with what is happening to Magu. Please, we Nigerians, we have to be very serious with our country. The country cannot continue to be like this. Why they are treating Magu this way is because so much money came in for the fight against COVID-19. And I can assure you, to retire it will be very difficult. With Magu there as a hard nut to crack. So it has to be pushed out of the way. The solution quickly is this. The southern part of Nigeria must come together. The southeast, the south-south, and the southwest. If they don't come together and they allow history to repeat itself, we'll be in trouble.
Wow.
Two great politicians came from the south. Awolowo and Zik of Africa. And you know what they did? Divide and rule. They used Awolowo's own brother, Samuel Ladoke Akintola, to decimate his power, to water down his power. And that is why we're in this mess. Because if we had Awolowo as the president of Nigeria at that time, we would not be here.
Okay, I want to thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you very much for contributing this whole idea. This idea where you say you wanted to analyze Nigeria, I knew that was going to be a long one, you know, and there wouldn't any way we could give you the time to do it justice. You actually will have to be a guest on the program. But we're talking about Magu. And even though you said that, yes, it is this Magu that has led you to, you know, begin to research Nigeria and perhaps some of its inequalities. I don't know if that is the word. But we have a situation on our hands. People, because of the way government has handled this, people are thinking of it as, for instance, people are using the expression, the way they treated Magu. You know, what is happening to Magu. Now, Garba Shehu has explained that nothing is happening to Magu apart from that which is to be expected in terms of nobody being above the law.
Exactly.
Now, if that is something happening to Magu, I don't think the government has any apologies to give anyone. But because of the way it was handled, because of the way the whole thing was handled, people are thinking that you're stacking the deck against Magu. People might imagine, rightly or wrongly, that, look, when you intercept a guy on his way somewhere and redirect him somewhere else where guys are evidently prepared to receive him, but he never knew anything about that, well, you know what how people will think. And coupled with the fact that it took Mr. Garba Shehu something like 4 or 5 days to finally come up with that statement, which wasn't adding anything new anyway. Because everything he said, most Nigerians will say, we can say that about Mr. President because we know it, and this administration. Mr. Femi Adesina, completely missing in action. He didn't say anything at all.
But they would have discussed it before issuing that press statement.
They discussed it, and he issued the statement, but it wasn't within 24 hours of the story breaking.
And like I told you, they would have consulted on how the right language to use. They would have, so that, no, of course, because even if you want to send out a press statement, you have to also note the kind of language you use so that you don't indict the president in any way, since they already know that they want the investigation to be as transparent as ever. So they have to sit down, look at the press statements, and this is not just going to be only Gabashewu. It will be Femi Adesina and others who will sit down to write that press statement.
And take how many days
to
finally come up? No, and take Mr. Adok. I think Mr. Adok, did I get it right, Mr. Degbite in Edo State?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. As this Mr. Magu issue, Nigerians already preempted the case. You know, when someone is found guilty, when someone is accused of a crime, when someone is accused of a crime, so the person should be allowed to be investigated by the court. You know, when a person is accused, he is not yet guilty until the court pronounces him guilty.
Yeah.
But today, because of session and areas where one comes from, people will start saying it is wrong for him to be arrested, it is wrong for him to be arrested in this form, the other. When a criminal is suspected to be a criminal, or a person is suspected to be a criminal, he can be arrested in the church, he can be arrested in the street, he can be arrested in his home. But that he's being arrested does not mean that he's guilty until he's being proven guilty. But in Nigerian cases, when someone is arrested, everybody will start raising sentiment.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Degbite, for calling in. Appreciate your call. The point he makes, Mr. Degbite makes, is the point I read that Wahab Shitu, a lawyer also working with Magu on this exercise, he put a 7-point request to the panel, respectful request to the panel, because his fear was that Magu was being tried now in the press, you know, inadvertently, not that, but so this is the kind of thing that we're talking about, and one wonders how much thought actually went into the handling of this, or whether it took everybody by surprise. You know, that's the other thing. Nobody's saying that Messrs. Shehu and Adesina, their job is the easiest. It isn't. It could even be seen as a dangerous kind of a job. And apart from joking, one understands why they have to make assurance doubly sure before they actually finally say something. But you know, one guy, you know, Wahab Shitu, has alleged that his client, that is Magu, is now being tried in the press because of the way this whole thing has been handled. So he wanted bail. Now that he wanted bail means that he doesn't have bail yet. Again, how far does that square up with the law?
And just like I say, there will be some other people who also say that when Magu was there, he was also, you know, parading people, and that is a problem that we are having. When once the police, you know, arrest anybody, they parade the person as suspect.
I've got to go off on a break. Let's go off on a break, but stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. COVID-19 is still very much, so we sort of, as it were, turn the page on the EFCC acting chair and the investigation. Hopefully it'll be smooth sailing from here, meaning that, you know, they can fix what's wrong with it, and let's roll on a bit more smoothly. But let's turn the page on that for now in the program. COVID-19 is still very much with us, unfortunately. Now, this is not the time that you expect doctors to withdraw their services, but we're hearing that doctors in Lagos State have a grievance and might indeed be doing that. So we reached out to Dr. Japhet Olubogi, who is NMA, the chair of NMA COVID-19 in Lagos State. Good morning, Dr. Olubogi.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling in. So where are we exactly? The grievance of the doctor, the warning strike, what's the update? What's the situation report?
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome.
Yes, the Lagos employed doctors on the warning strike, on the 3-day warning strike, just to in that demand from government and to show the government that they are serious what their demands that they are taking of government. And these demands are payment of unpaid COVID-19 allowance allowances to their senior colleagues. Also, provision of the personal protective equipment for all health workers in the state, and then the payment of hazard allowance that is being paid to the federal government workers, federal government health workers, like not being replicated at the state level. So the Lagos State employed doctors believe that they are the center of the COVID-19 struggle in Nigeria, and if the federal government doctors are being paid other allowances, enormous amounts for that matter, they also should, if not the first set of people to get it, at least they should benefit from such allowances as well. These are among some of the issues that they are fighting for and asking the government to listen to them for. You will recall that before they actually embarked on this strike, they had met the government at various strata, and they have tried to iron issues out. They've also given a 2-week ultimatum, which expired last week, I believe. So that is the reason why they are now embarking on a 3-day morning strike. All doctors in the state are expected to be on the strike, apart from those who are working at the isolation centers.
Yeah.
Those are exempted.
Okay.
Children and their services.
Now, Doctor, what is the response of government to the inquiry initially by the doctors that, hey, you're not paying us our dues? I mean, federal doctors are getting this, are getting that. We are the epicenter here. You should be paying this to us. What was government's response then that has now led to, oh, if that's the way you want to play, we're putting on a warning strike? What was government's response? Why did government say it has been unable to satisfy the doctors?
Well, I'm not an official of Medical Guild, but I'm also a member of Medical Guild. So I understand that the government promised to carry out this demand, but the timeline given by the Medical Guild was not observed. The government has not carried out their demands when due, when the timeline was due. So apart from that, they met with the government. They felt that government is not taking their demands seriously enough. So if they are taking their demands seriously enough, they should have provided PPE for health workers at the various government hospitals, including the primary health centers and the general hospitals.
Okay.
So they feel their colleagues are working, just putting themselves at risk to carry out. But government is not heeding their warnings. They're not sticking to their demand as well. So don't feel government is holding up their own part of the package. They're not holding up to their own part of the package. So they feel left down.
Are you saying that, I need this to be clear, are you saying that there are some doctors who are working right now at the isolation center? Oh, yes.
Yes, absolutely. The strike is in exemption of the doctors that are working at the isolation centers. Medical Guild have done this to put a face to their strike action so that the populace can understand their plight and understand that they're not inhumane. They're just trying to press home their demands as much as possible. So the doctors who are all the isolation centers are working as we speak.
Okay. You know, Azuko, considering that Governor Sanwo-Olu and his team, they are taking center stage and they've been commended, rightly so, you know, by the nation for the hands-on approach that they have. It's surprising that if this is indeed a ball that has been dropped by them, that it happened, because Lagos State, it can't be short of money.
Exactly.
So, I mean, so what is the issue is what, as Dr. Olubogi is telling us, it seems to be a mystery for now.
Yes, it's surprising. And Doctor, the hazard allowance, like, how much is this hazard allowance? Because we need to know in figures. How much is it?
Well, for Lagos State, the Lagos State government paid the doctors 20,000 hazard allowance twice during the month of March or April, I think, and then in June. But seasonal workers, I understand, got not less than 300,000 naira. In fact, over 300,000 naira for some as standard allowance. So
for 1 month?
That,
is it for 1 month?
Yeah, for 1 month.
Wait, you're saying federal doctors got as much as 300,000 hazard allowance, and Lagos State doctors, when they were paid, it was 20,000 naira hazard allowance.
Yes. It's possible their own hazard allowance was spread over the 3-4 months of COVID-19. But they paid them last month, and some people got over 300,000 naira. I'm not a federal government official, so I don't know the exact figure, but we are aware that some even got over 300,000 naira as hazard allowance. Meanwhile, Lagos State employed doctors got 20,000, then another 20,000 naira for the month of June. So, if you look at those who are actually at the center of the work, you cannot write off Lagos State employed doctors. I mean, apart from that, there's a part of his salary which is also commensurate with what the federal government doctors earn. Because state doctors at the same level actually earn a bit lower than federal government doctors. So these are part of the request that the medical aid is.
Well, I'm curious, Dr. Olubogi, apart from the doctors, how about all the other people that are involved? The nurses, for example, primarily.
The same thing applies. The same thing applies.
Okay. So the nurses.
So what the doctors are fighting for is not just for the doctors, it's for all the health workers as well.
Okay. And that is, maybe it's not even just nurses. Maybe there are other, categories.
Yeah, not just nurses. The other health workers as well.
Okay.
But the doctors are not going to use the PPEs alone. Okay. The other health workers also need the PPEs.
And the figures, unfortunately, are reported to be, generally speaking, rising. Generally speaking.
Yes.
So that's a problem, and this is we can hardly afford this kind of an exercise. So government must be, I'm not the spokesman of government, but Lagos State government must be very hard-pressed to allow the matter to degenerate into this. But as you say reassuringly, those in the isolation centers are still, if you want to call it a sacrifice, still working. They are not withdrawing.
Yes, absolutely.
They are not withdrawing their services. But to either bring the matter to the public or whatever, the generality of the body of physicians are saying that no, until it's a warning strike, meaning that is there a difference between a warning strike and a total strike? What does a warning strike mean? Does it mean?
There's a difference between a warning strike and a total strike. It means after the 3-day warning strike, the officials of the medical guild and their rep council members will meet and decide. As government actually answered us, as government provided our demand to us. If not, they will decide what they want to do. And when they decide to go on total strike, it means that they will declare a strike. And that may not exclude the doctors that are working at the isolation centers.
When does the warning strike end?
The warning strike ends after 3 days, 3 working days. That's after Wednesday.
Okay, that is started today. So it's going to be today, tomorrow, and Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Olubogi, for coming on and explaining it. We certainly hope this can be sorted out. Thank you, as always, for making room for us in your schedule.
I want to believe that the Lagos State government is going to look how they can solve this problem.
Yeah, they need to. Money
because the numbers are really increasing in Lagos, and I just made a trip over the weekend, and I noticed that it's only Lagos that you can see people wearing face masks. Yeah. But every other state is like it's business as usual. People are going to church, people are going to mosques, and all that, and it's worrisome. Okay. It's really, really worrisome.
I guess we're going to have to leave it here today, Asuko, and our thanks in doing so to Mr. Dapo Adeosun, who came in on our program, and now Dr. Japhet, Olubogi, for explaining the matter to us, and indeed to our callers Some of our, usual suspects didn't make it in today. We missed, who's he?
Okorafor.
There you go, Matthew Okorafor, and Mr. the one calling in from Dokwemu.
Yakub.
Mr. Yakub. Mr. George, he's a usual suspect.
Yes,
he made it in. Thank you all, and all the other guys. We value you very highly because the program wouldn't be the same without you. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. Asukwa James and I say bye-bye for now.